What's up, guys? My name is Jonathan Tenbrook, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and we're breaking down Attack on Titan, episode 4. Let's get it. Guillotine. Arm in guillotine, which is funny because he doesn't have an arm on that side. Overall, he combined 2 real jiu-jitsu sweeps. It's pretty dope still. It's pretty dope. Chin tucked. Chin not tucked. What the f***? And you become the hunchback of Notre Dame. You want to look like that video game nerd that's never left his room for 15 years. All right, guys, let's watch the next clip. Double. Okay, let's break this down clip by clip, and then we'll watch the next segment. So the first thing that we have is this double leg. There's a lot of names for this: football tackle, rugby tackle, blast double, spearing double leg, whatever you want to call it. I did want to talk about this, even though it just looks like he kind of tackled him, which kind of is and isn't a technique. Very simple concept you can use. As you try to put weight on your legs and sprawl and put weight down, if somebody drives into you really hard, it makes you kind of stand up and posture upwards, and then you have to step backwards. If you try to pick up a really big guy's leg while he's putting all of his weight leaning forward onto that leg, he's got more than half his weight on that front leg. Very hard to take him down. So what you do, instead of thinking about picking him up and lifting him off the ground, you think about spearing through him, driving your entire body as fast as you can. And now that their weight is going backwards, an object in motion stays in motion, you can finish the single or the double leg. So this is actually really good, even if they didn't mean for it to be a very specific or technical double leg. This is very good. So one more time watching the double. He's sprinting, full on blast, object in motion stays in motion, grabs the legs and kind of leaps off his own feet here. So this is actually a pretty good way to do takedowns if you don't like doing the wrestler shot where you get low and drop to your knees and then stand back up, as you kind of just spear through your partner, or you leave your feet as you double leg like this. So right here, he just kind of jumps and, like, see how he left his foot came off the ground there as he leapt through, and then they end up hitting a wall through that. But this is actually pretty good, so I like this so far. It was good. Ground and pound, outside ashi. Okay, it's a little weird. So the clip starts and Eren has Reiner's leg wrapped up here. Both of his feet are kind of on the outside. He even has his toes pointed outwards in the single leg X position, which is where basically if you had somebody stand in your armpits and then you lifted your hips up and you wrapped one of your feet up and around their leg and placed it on their hip, you're in single leg X. The middle leg is usually shin inside the thigh when you play single leg X, or you can go double outside, otherwise known as double outside ashi, like he is here, and he could either lock a triangle choke with his legs, a figure 4, and then just drive his hips forward to sweep him, or he could just put the bottom of both of his feet on Reiner's hip there, where the left foot is. He could just put both of them there, and then do a big bridge and hip in as hard as he can and push off his feet, and he could dump him over. So he's in a leg entanglement or a leg position to sweep or submit him here, but he doesn't end up using it quite like that. And then they zoom out to this position. His left leg is still in the single leg X position where it's wrapped around and on the hip. His left arm has the leg. Now his right arm reached and grabbed the far foot, and his other foot dropped off the hip and kind of slid down to behind the knee. So he's got one foot on the hip in single leg X, and the far foot is hooking under the shin. There's a lot of sweeps in jiu-jitsu that exist, so many that I can't talk about all of them, but I'm going to talk about the couple really quick about what he could do here. We have the traditional single leg X sweep, where you bring your shin inside where your foot is on the hip and your shin's on the same thigh, and you lift your hips up and you twist to the outside to knock your partner down. You can do what's known as a shin sweep or a dummy sweep based on what your professor calls it. Pro tip, if your professor has a different name for something, I believe that is because they have all forgotten the names of it and they just fucking make shit up on the spot. I do it too. It happens, okay? So he's in the position for a shin sweep. The shin sweep is when you take your shins inside your partner's knees, you grab their feet, and then you open your knees, kind of opening and twisting their legs outwards, and it'll just dump them backwards. So I just talked about single leg X, and then I talked about the shin sweep. So he's kind of doing both at the same time. He's kind of got the single leg X on the left side, and he kind of has that shin sweep or that dummy sweep on the right. So that's okay. He's kind of combining techniques here. Usually I don't combine them like this. I either chain from one to the other. He kind of used two techniques at once, but it's okay. But then we see him shift off to the side here, and I thought honestly that he was going to take his left leg and pummel it over the top of the thigh and dig his heel between the legs. So he's going to come off the hip and go between the legs and start reaping and looking for a heel hook as he turns the corner here. But he decides to start to knock him over, and then with the foot on the hip, he decides to just kick him as far as he can away. This I'm not a fan of. Anytime you sweep somebody, that's great. But just like anytime you get a takedown, if you finish the takedown and then you both stand up, that doesn't mean anything. This isn't judo. We don't get points and we don't end the match by having them land on their back. When you do a takedown, you have to finish on top and end on top. So any sweep, whether it's a dummy sweep, a shin sweep, a single leg X sweep, once you knock them over, my preference is always to either submit them right away or to get up and start trying to wrestle. The easiest way to do this to make sure and guarantee that your partner doesn't get up with you at the same time is as you sweep them over, you catch their foot and you lift it into the air. So you elevate one or two of their feet into the air, making it hard to stand up. To stand, you need both feet. So as you sweep them over, you immediately get up and use their momentum, hold on to them, get up with them, and pick one or two of their feet up. That guarantees you're on top, they're still on their back. Now we can do jiu-jitsu, or you can do ground and pound, or then you can run away. He decides to kick him, which would be okay if his plan was to run and bail on the fight, but he decides to stay here. So to me, kicking him away was stupid. He should have gone for the heel hook, or he should have finished the regular sweep and then kept connection, lifting one of the feet up and then ending up on top, whether he wanted to strike or do more jiu-jitsu. But overall, he combined two real jiu-jitsu sweeps. It's pretty dope still. It's pretty dope. So now we fast forward through a little bit of dialogue, and now we're on to the next part. Another double. Guillotine. Arm in guillotine, which is funny because he doesn't have an arm on that side. Defending the hand. Chin tucked. Chin not tucked. What the fuck? All right. This is a long guillotine sequence, so I'll break it down into two parts real quick. First, the attack and then the defense. So the reason I said chin tucked was because he looked at Mikasa and then tucked his chin down to cover like the back of Reiner's neck, or nape if you watch the anime. And once he's tucked and covered, you can kind of like forcibly crunch your entire upper body and then extend your lower body, keeping your upper body crunched over to finish the guillotine. I always say and show this where the better part of the guillotine is when you try to round your shoulders forward and you become the hunchback of Notre Dame. You want to look like that video game nerd that's never left his room for 15 years. And then once you're in that position, it kind of guarantees that your shoulders are rounded and rolled forward, because once we capture someone's neck, we don't want their neck to pop out. So what you do is you stay rounded, stay forward with your upper body. You make a guillotine grip, or you make a knife hand, and then you grab your own hand, you close your fingers, and then you close your elbows, and your shoulders are forward, your shoulders are rounded, your chest is rounded, your chin is tucked, which is what I said right there, chin's tucked. And now what you can do is stay still with your upper body, slowly squeezing, and then really either crunch or extend with your lower body. So your upper body stays rounded and closed, your lower body opens and explodes, and that's what causes the pressure. Or you can curl. So there's kind of two ways to finish it. You can stay crunched and like re-crunch everything, which is how a lot of people choose the arm and guillotine finish. Or you can try to connect yourself to their neck and then kind of extend them away with your lower body, which is my preference for this. But that's why I was like, oh, chin tucked. And then right away he threw his head back, and I was like, all right, chin not tucked. What the fuck, man? Come on, Eren. You know better. Okay, and now the next part of this sequence is right here. Even though his knees are cut. Driving forward. Okay, so this definitely seems like Eren is using technique and Reiner isn't. Technically, Reiner's doing something that's kind of correct here, and that is if Eren is trying to do the type of guillotine where he compresses and clamps on the body and closes the neck off and closes everything and crunches everything up, if Reiner decides to try to extend his spine by driving his forehead onto the mat and extending his entire body, if he can actually straighten his body while Eren is trying to crunch it, he's actually doing the opposite of what Eren wants, and he's actually defending the guillotine. And then we saw earlier his left hand was on the neck defending the guillotine. So he was initially hand fighting, which is actually kind of cool. And then right here, he's actually trying to drive forward and trying to try to extend his neck here. Try to have it uncrimped. Once it's crimped down with the arm under it, you can be choked really easily. If you can uncrimp it, you can actually escape the guillotine. So I actually kind of like this, even though they're not really showing it for the guillotine defense, and it looks like Reiner's just trying to drive into Eren. You actually kind of do want to do this. A better option would be to take your arm all the way out of the guillotine, although this is an arm-in guillotine, and Reiner doesn't have a fucking right arm. But if he did, if he took his right arm out and he threw it over the neck, and he took the inside of his elbow right here, and then threw it right over Eren's neck here, and then drove into him like this and tripoded his weight, there's a Von Flue choke, where it basically chokes your partner. Even though they have you in the guillotine, you can choke them by driving your shoulder into their throat. Especially Eren, he fucking opened his neck right here. Like I said, he threw his head backwards, which is a bad form to finish the guillotine. There's a perfect example where he could just drive his shoulder into the neck if he was able to free his right arm if he had one. So I actually do like that they're showing this. And again, the two ways to finish the guillotine is going to be to stay forward with your chin, have everything crunched in, having your knees pulled to your chest, and then slowly squeeze everything as you compress everything into a ball and crunch up. Or you can do my style where you still stay forward with your upper body, but now with your ankles crossed, you bring your heels down and then you open your knees. So your ankles are crossed and you bring your heels straight down towards the mat, and then you open your knees and you extend your hips away, and then you finish it like you're doing like a hip thrust at the gym. So my preference is to do the hip thrust style. A lot of people like the crunching style. Neither is wrong. Different versions of the technique. But I'll say this, neither of those styles require you to throw your head back like this. The odds are if you throw your head back, they're going to escape the guillotine. So I'm not a fan of this part. Okay, guys, let's rank all three of these things that happened. I know the double leg was quick, but I still want to give it a rating because technically it was correct. His feet left the ground. He still grabbed the legs. He kind of speared through him. So it is a legit thing. And although that's not jiu-jitsu, that's more wrestling, everything was done pretty much properly for a double leg. So we are going to give it an A, right? It was a good technique. Nothing was wrong with it, but it's not jiu-jitsu, so I'd feel weird giving it like an S. And then there was no like submission or whatever. It was a brainless Reiner doing brainless Reiner things, but good double leg, good spearing double, muy bueno. And then we have the single leg X kind of shin to shin dummy sweep that happened. I'm gonna give this one a B. Even though he escaped in the same way that Annie escaped with that mount escape, he could have gone for a heel hook super easily. He could have followed up. He didn't have to kick him all the way away. That would have been okay for self-defense. And even though this seems like a self-defense situation, the answer would have been to run away afterwards. And he didn't. He got blast doubled by Reiner afterwards, again, into the guillotine. So I would have liked to see him, one, go for the heel hook. Two, as he finished the sweep, don't kick them all the way away. Stay connected, stay tight. And as they dump backwards, he would stand up and finish the sweep from there. So I think because of both those missed opportunities, it's going to go down at a B. Above the mount escape. Yeah. And then we got the guillotine. The guillotine, fuck me. Man. So baiting the double leg to take the guillotine, that's pretty cool. That's a very jiu-jitsu thing. But the fact that he didn't finish it and he did it kind of horribly, where he like threw his head backwards and then didn't end up finishing the guillotine, it's kind of mid. So I'm going to put that above the Mount Escape one. There was still a lot of stuff wrong with the Mount Escape, so we're going to give it a B also. It is what it is. There's some other things that could have been done instead of that, and definitely he could have finished it either by crunching or by extending, but keeping his upper body forward for sure, and his chin covering the back of his neck as much as he can to help control the neck so the head doesn't slip out. So overall, this is still a dope sequence. So much jiu-jitsu happened in a span of like 15 seconds, which is fucking great. Again, if there wasn't so much jiu-jitsu in this, every single one of these would go in the S tier because this is so sick. This is so badass that they put real jiu-jitsu in a show that actually works. They obviously hired somebody that knew jiu-jitsu to do this, and this stuff fucking works, guys. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Leave a comment down below. Make sure you subscribe, hit that notification button. And if you guys want to see me do something else or any other type of show, let me know in the comments, okay? Any recommendation, I'm here for it. Thanks, guys.